Hello, thank you very much for joining us. Today we will consider the different ways that candidates can demonstrate that they have attained the required level of French language. This is necessary in order to apply for French nationality. So, as a reminder, candidates are expected to have a minimum of B1 in French language. This is in addition, of course, to the tests that the candidate will be subjected to during the actual French citizenship interview. So the aim of this video is not to go into any great detail into the different tests. What we plan to do is to give you an overview. If you want in-depth information um, regarding the different tests, we will provide subsequent videos that will give you these details. So we'll start with TCF. TCF is very, very popular amongst candidates. So that's the test de connaissance du français. So let's see what the TCF is all about. So the TCF has got four sections. So we've got the compréhension orale, compréhension écrite, both of which have 29 questions. So those are multiple choice questions. You've got to choose one out of four, and there isn't any negative marking, so you shouldn't be concerned about that. So the advice is for you to answer everything. Now it is collective in the sense that you will be in the same hall or room as other candidates. So what that means is you've got to listen, listen. Very, very important, especially when and there will be certainly background noise from other candidates. So 100% concentration is necessary here. So in addition, you've got expression écrite and expression orale. And so three exercises for the expression écrite, the same for expression orale. In terms of the total time, you've got 1 hour and 50 minutes to complete the tests. My advice and my opinion is that the time is more than necessary for you to get a B1. You shouldn't be worried about that. We can see how that will be possible in subsequent videos, but the time is more than enough. Now, in terms of validity, it is valid for 2 years. So the TCF is valid for 2 years. Now, what this means is that you should apply, or rather, you should take this test as close as possible to the date that you plan to submit your application for French nationality. Okay. Now we'll look at the next test. So this is the test d'évaluation de français. So this is similar to the TCF. And this test, TAF, it's pour la naturalisation. Okay. Now it's got four sections, just like the TCF. In terms of the number of questions per section, it's similar. So you've got 35 questions for the compréhension orale and écrite. You've got one activity each for expression orale and écrite. Okay. And like I say, there is sufficient time for you to obtain the B1 level. Shouldn't be worried about that. I assure you there's plenty of time. I think people get anxious when so they think they have to get very, very high score. No. The minimum is B1, so you don't have to get C2 or C1, for instance. If it's just B1, you've got more than enough time. You shouldn't worry about that. So for the TOF, you've got 1 hour and 50 minutes, so similar to the TCF. And the certificate is valid for 2 years, just like the TCF. So what that means is that you have to employ wisdom in when you apply or when you take this exam. So you should take this exam, as close as possible to the date you plan to submit your application. Now we'll consider one or two test cases. So for the first one, this candidate has got, so remember the minimum level required is B1. So what that means is that you should have an average of B1. So you don't have to score B1 in all the different sections. You need an average of B1. So this candidate has got B2, right? In compréhension écrite. He's got C1 in compréhension orale, expression écrite B2, and expression orale C1. So at the end, you can see that this candidate has attained the necessary level, so it is more than B1. Okay, so this candidate is fine. Now for the next candidate, what has this candidate gotten? Now this candidate has got B2 under compréhension écrite, B1 under compréhension orale. The candidate went below the threshold in expression écrite, had an A2, and had an expression oral score of B1. Now, this candidate was successful as well, and the reason being that the B2 in expression écrite compensated for the A2 that the candidate had under expression écrite. Okay, so the candidate had an average of B1 from the looks of things. That's why this candidate was successful. So what that means is that this candidate has basically knocked on the door, you know. However, during the actual interview, the assessor will test the candidate further. Okay, so that's how it works. You've got the DELF and the DALF. So these exams are quite interesting because they are internationally accepted exams, right? And the candidate can actually go for a level that he or she feels that they are comfortable with. So for instance, if a candidate feels that he or she has studied the French language to a reasonable level, he or she can go for the DALF C1 or C2. What that means is that the candidate has to be successful in those levels, or whichever level the candidate has adopted. However, if the candidate feels that he or she is somewhere in between, that candidate can actually go for the DELF B1 directly and pass that exam. So in terms of the validity, it is so you've got basically so many years, so you are not obliged to renew the test by taking it after 2 years. So what that means is if you plan to apply for French citizenship in the year 2024 and we are in the year 2021, it means that certificate, the DELF or the DALF certificate, will still remain valid even after 3 or 4 years from now. Okay. Now, you've got other avenues like the Diplôme National de Brevet. So if you've studied in France, you can actually present the diploma. Okay. So this diploma can be presented as a proof of French language. You have also got the CAP, for instance. So the CAP Petite Enfance, that's a very good example. If you've skilled through that program, you can actually present the certificate as a proof of French language competency. You've got the master's degree, for instance. If you've studied in French and you've got the master's degree, you can present that as well, or a doctorate degree. So the table you see to the right basically lists the different avenues that can qualify the candidate. So it's a minimum of level 3, so niveau 3. Okay. Okay. So thank you very much for watching this very short video. If you've got any questions, please feel very free. Send them to us. We'll try to trash them out before the next videos coming. So thank you very much, and we wish you the very, very best as you plan for your exam and also as you plan to apply to become a French citizen. Bye bye.